Hey friends, welcome to the Entrusted to Lead podcast. I'm your host, Danita Cummins, and on today's episode, I'm joined by my good friend, Hannah Gottschalk. Hannah is the Executive Director of SafeCenter Domestic and Sexual Violence Services in mid-Michigan, and she's also the CEO and a certified coach of Fierce and Free Coaching, where she provides coaching to leaders and women. Hannah's passionate about helping others pursue their dreams and goals and developing and growing leaders, so it just made perfect sense when I started my podcast to call Hannah and see if she wanted to join me on the show. I'm excited for our conversation today, so let's dive in. Doing things alone is entirely overrated. We all need a community to thrive. And that's why I'm part of an online community of writers and speakers, podcasters, and entrepreneurs called Creatives. And I love it. In the years since I joined this community, I've launched new ideas and I finally executed the dreams that sat on the shelf for years. Seriously. And I was able to do this because of the outstanding group of mentors, exceptional training, and encouraging mastermind groups with my new friends who did and continue to give me invaluable feedback. Oh, and not to mention all the fun, because we have had lots and lots of fun. Have you ever said, I want to write a book? Or do you want to use your voice for the exciting world of podcasting? If so, Called Creatives is your best resource for up-to-the-minute industry training, expert advice, live coaching, and peer support like no other. Best-selling authors and speakers Allie Worthington and Lisa Whittle lead this community with a no-competition mission, and it shows. So join my friends and I in the Called Creative community. Head to my show notes, danitacummins.com/podcast, and click the link to get all the details to join. I promise you won't regret it. I look forward to seeing you in the community and watching you grow. Hey everybody, welcome to the Entrusted to Lead podcast. I'm your host, Danita Cummins, and today I am super excited to have my friend Hannah on the show. Hannah and I met a few years ago, I think. Maybe, somewhere in the COVID world when it was a little crazy. And we were together in a women's leadership cohort, which was, for me, you can share your thoughts, but man, I thought it was the most just necessary thing for me in that season of my life to just really help me grow and have confidence in myself as a leader. So we can talk more about that in a minute. But Hannah Gottschalk, she serves full-time as the Executive Director of the SafeCenter Domestic and Sexual Violence Services in mid-Michigan. And she has over 12 years of experience in the nonprofit setting and victim service field. She's also a CEO, and we're super excited. She's a certified coach of her new Fierce and Free Coaching business, where she provides coaching to leaders and women. So I'm super excited to have Hannah on the show today. Hannah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Danita. I am so excited to be here too. It's such an honor and a pleasure to connect with you in this way. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, this is super exciting. I am glad that you joined me today. And tell us a little bit about your role as an executive director of SafeCenter, and then a little bit about your coaching and your heart and why you serve where you serve.
Yeah, so my role at SafeCenter, to give you a little background, I've been involved with SafeCenter now for over a decade. I first came to the organization as an advocate and therapist, a young MSW, working in a limited license capacity. MSW is Master of Social Work, and started there and worked for about 2.5 years. And then I stepped away from the organization, but remained working with the organization as a board member. And that was a great experience because after serving in a staff capacity, I got to serve then in a governance capacity. So had that dual experience working with operations on the ground, front lines, and then serving in that overarching governance capacity for about 6 years or so. And then I had the really cool experience when we faced a transition in the executive director leadership. I was asked by some of my colleagues if I would be willing to come back on as the executive director. And that was really an easy yes for me. I absolutely love the organization SafeCenter and what we do there. So SafeCenter provides a variety of services to victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. We operate in 2 counties in mid-Michigan, rural counties, Clinton and Shiawassee counties specifically, and provide pretty much any and all services a victim or survivor would need. And my role as an executive director specifically is to oversee all of the operations associated with that. So I'm overseeing all of the staff, all of the facilities, all of the finances, all of the general day-to-day structures and things that need to be handled, the infrastructure and all of those things. I wear many hats in a day. Some days I'm meeting with staff, some days I'm meeting with community members, some days I'm sitting at my desk writing grants, answering emails. Some days I'm cleaning the bathroom and taking out trash. No job is too big, no job is too small. As an executive director in a nonprofit setting, you're kind of a jack of all trades. You just do what needs to get done on a daily basis. And we have a staff there's 15 of us total.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love that you said that because you're exactly right. I say that a lot in ministry. Like we show up, we make the folders, we do all the things.
Yes, whatever's needed. And we run 24/7, 365. So we have on-call advocates who are always, available should anything be going on. So we always have staff that are on site 24/7, 365. Then we have, backup on-call advocates should there be an emergency after hours or on weekends. But then we as managers, if that on-call person needs help, we're essentially the backup to the on-call person. So, anything can come up at any time in this crisis-oriented work that we're in. So it's very trauma-informed, crisis-oriented work, and we just operate and do what we need to do to serve those who come through our doors.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. I can only imagine all of the stories, that you have and just the impact that's had on your life just as a person, and two, I know you as a person of faith, so your faith for sure. And then three, just your ability to see the world. And obviously you have a heart, for social work and for service and for helping people, which I think, we can talk about next on your coaching business and how you've evolved to that place. But can you talk a little bit about that just in your experiences with that? Like how has that shaped your perspective as a leader? One, leading, teams and organizations, like you've said, at different layers of organization. But two, how has that shaped if you want to share, your perspective on your faith and how that shaped you as a leader?
Yeah. So I will say first and foremost, working at SafeCenter, I think changed me as a human being and as a professional altogether. It was a life-changing experience. You enter the field of social work as a young professional, kind of guns a-blazing, so to speak, want to change the world, set the world on fire, make change. Especially me, I'm a macro social worker, which means I'm really, oriented towards social change and social justice. And that's still my heart. That's still a huge piece of, my mission and my calling. But at the end of the day, you're dealing with real people and real lives. And when somebody's sitting across the room from you, sharing their trauma and what they've experienced and all the barriers that they're facing to achieving their goals, or, their safety concerns and all of those things with you, then reality kind of hits you, like, wow, this is a lot bigger and a lot more challenging than the textbooks and, the theoretical concepts in school. Right. And so that was it was just a really life-changing experience. And also just dealing with really difficult stuff. I will never say I've heard it all, because every day I hear something new. Between domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking work, have just heard many horrific things, but very humbling things that just remind me, like, we still have a lot of work to do, and our work is not ever going to be finished, unfortunately, but we are doing really good work. We are making good strides. So, and then I think too, just in terms of being a leader, I would not be who I am as a leader had I not had that boots on the ground experience, had I not worked on the front lines. Yes, it's been a little while since I've done, case management, day-to-day advocacy, but I never forget what it's like. And going back to I was working for a larger international, national organization, and then coming back to a smaller organization and seeing day-to-day what the staff have to work with, the very real complications that come with working with the systems, that we have to work within, and then also the lives of human beings and trauma, I'm in it with them.
Yeah.
So I very much feel their burdens and very much feel that has transcended into my leadership abilities. It humbles me as a leader, I think, every day. I learn from them probably more than they learn from me, to be honest.
Oh, I think that's so good. And you're right. It is. I think that's one of those qualities that really makes a great leader. Like, you don't have to know everything about the technical job that the people you're leading is doing, right? You don't have to. And a lot of people get put in a position of management, or, they move up and they move to new organizations and they don't exactly know all the details, right? But I think there's a certain power that comes from having been in the trenches. And the other thing, I think, like, my perspective of leadership is like, as a leader, I'm always, like you said, willing to get in and get my hands dirty. Like, we'll figure it out together, right? And I just feel like as I grew up in different roles, that was the thing, that when I had a boss or a leader or person who would stop and take the time to come and sit down with me and help me figure out what the problem is, and just really, was with me in the moment, that spoke volumes for my respect for them, my ability to trust them the next time around when something maybe was going sideways and I was like, I don't know how to do this. But it just really does. I think it creates that level of trust and that level of, respect and empathy that we all need, especially in what you're doing, right? Like you said, especially as leading through trauma. I only hit a small piece of that in, the pregnancy resource center with crisis pregnancy. And we deal with some, some pretty hard things some days too. But yeah, you're right. You're always, every day there's a new story and a new person sitting in front of you. And I think that's the power of just being present in the moment, right? Just seeing that person for who they are, not assuming you know all the answers, because, their story is different and their story matters. So how have your experiences working in this space over all of these years, how has that affected your faith and your perspective? And I think the thing that you just said that I keyed in on was when you said, we're not going to solve it all. Like, we're not going to end world hunger, right? We say that sometimes, like world peace. So
Yeah.
how do you reconcile that every day in the trenches without getting like frustrated, or in your faith journey? How's that been?
Yeah, I think, the big picture for me is just keeping in mind that, we have a job to do. We're called to show up and do our part. And in terms of faith, God's ultimately in control, right? He's got this figured out from start to finish, beginning to end. And we're just called as, his servants, as his ambassadors, to show up and do our part. And that's the bigger picture. That's we fulfill our mission, our purpose here on earth in whatever capacity we're called to do that. And, for me right now, that's serving as the executive director and as an advocate for victims. And, just remembering that if I do my best in that every day, then I'm moving that needle a little bit more forward towards justice for victims and helping them get what they need and move them forward in their healing journey and towards the hope that they need in their lives, to heal from what they've experienced. So I just try to keep that as my focus, and also just planting those seeds. We have a lot of folks who come to us and they're not ready to leave yet. They're not ready to completely separate from the abuse that they've been experiencing or have experienced, or, everyone's at a different point in their journey with this. And it's scary.
Yeah.
It takes on average like about 7 times for someone to leave their assailant. But if we
Wow.
can just plant
Yeah.
seeds, our number one core value is hope. If we can just give people the hope that there is something else for them that's better than what they're experiencing, that they do matter and that they're deserving of more, then we have done our
Yeah.
job. And that's what we keep in mind.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that's so good. And I think if you serve in any capacity, I'll say anywhere, but really I feel like if you're in that like social work space, or even in the medical field, I think, because I have 2 daughters that are EMTs, and one is in paramedic school and the other one is 18, and she's a senior in high school and she's an EMT. So she's doing EMT on the weekends, and she's, sitting in math class Monday through Friday.
Right.
And they see such hard stuff. And it's been so hard, and I say that because, we raise our kids in the church and the faith, and, we're not great theologians by any means. And so over the years, I just watch them as they take their little kid faith and then they put it in the world and they test it and they see, is this valid? Is this real?
Mm-hmm.
Are these things that I believed, are they actually playing out in real life? And it's a hard journey, right? They ask hard questions, which is fair. I tell them faith is like a muscle. It grows and you got to ask hard questions. You got to kind of, put some weight on it and see where it's going to be. But I think that is that just releasing, like you said, knowing that you're not in charge. And sometimes I think when you face a lot of trauma or suffering in the world, it's easy to get jaded. It's easy to get, I mean, is God really real? If he was real, or if God was real, is God a God of love? Because all these people are hurting, all these people are dying, all these things are, happening. And I feel like as we get older, the lost and dying world answer doesn't really answer the question. You know what I mean? Because we're reconciling this with our brain. So I would imagine, and that's why I was asking you about your faith journey. How do you kind of reconcile that every day in the midst of hard stuff and still not lose your kind of passion?
Yeah. And there are definitely days where it is hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are days where you doubt, you question, you wonder if you're doing it right, if you could have done more. And there's days where you leave feeling defeated sometimes. I mean, so I don't want to glamorize it and make it seem like, yep, I did my best today, pat on the back, but it's, in the big picture, it's keeping in mind that there really is a higher purpose. And I don't say that, in a cliche or trite way. There really is a bigger story being written here, and we're all playing a part in that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I found myself in this, I think 12 years now, I've been in the pregnancy help ministry, and same thing. Like I say that I got to a place where I'm like, I don't save babies. That's not me right now. That's not what God has called me to do. I show up every day. I make the folders. I sweep the floors, and hopefully through some part of my broken pieces, right, that they will see the love of Christ in reflected on the broken pieces laying on the floor. Like that's all I got.
Yes, absolutely.
And I have to trust that he's bigger. Yeah. Yep. So let's talk about your coaching business now. And so you've been doing this executive director thing. You've been serving and doing all this amazing stuff. And then you decided, hey, I'm going to start a business. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So along with you, did that coaching intensive. I've been feeling led to do coaching now for quite some time. I actually posted about this on Instagram not too long ago, but I have a note in my iPhone dated back to like October of 2018, that talks about that having a dream of doing coaching, writing, speaking, and being able to help other people work towards their dreams, work on their goals, taking those steps that they feel called to take, but maybe have some fear about taking. And I just put it in there kind of as a reminder to myself that that's something I'm feeling called to, feeling led to, but just need to sit on for a little while because I knew it wasn't the right time or the place. And now here it is, 2023. So I did that coaching intensive, and being a part of that, I felt was really impactful, especially in the thick of the pandemic and, going through so much as a leader and having some, I guess, dreams that were put on the back burner, so to speak, as so many of us had. And then I applied to the Go and Tell Gals coaching certification program and was accepted and went through that and graduated, or completed that program, I should say, in December of 2021. And then officially decided to get my LLC as a small business in January of 2022. So my thought with that was I would, start and launch a coaching business. But of course, I'm a full-time executive director. So, trying to navigate two worlds that are similar but very different, that takes some learning and adjusting to. So for me, it was really just about kind of getting the website figured out and just some of those infrastructure pieces down. And then I hit pause because I wanted to just kind of refocus, like, what is it I really want to do with the coaching? How do I want to, ensure that I do this correctly and ensure that I keep the SafeCenter stuff intact, and then also do the coaching, to the best of my abilities. And so I did a relaunch here in December, and I'm moving ahead with that. So Fierce and Free Coaching is officially launched, and I've got some clients, and I'm here talking to you about it. And it's awesome. I'm super excited to be diving into it. So
yeah. And I love the fact that you started in 2018 with a note to yourself, like, I feel like this is something I'd like to do. Right. Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day because we're doing ultrasounds at the pregnancy center now for the first time in like 12 years. Mm-hmm. And it was that moment, kind of like probably with you, like we are official, we're out the door. But I think that's the thing about dreams. They take a long time.
They do.
Sometimes they just, And they're so nebulous. I think that's the other thing. I mean, maybe you have a very tangible dream. Like it's a very like one day I want to be a doctor. One day I want to have a, master's degree. One day I want to have this job or that job. But I feel like sometimes like it's like dreams and purpose. All this stuff gets put in a bucket. And they're just these like clouds of vapor, so you're kind of like, I feel like it's out here somewhere, but I can't quite touch it yet.
Right.
So I think that's awesome that you said, yeah, I started 2018 with a note on my iPhone and now here I am today, 5 years later through pandemic, through all the things, still working full time and launching your business, which I think is amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Super proud of you. So in that season of those like 5 years, right? Because 5 years is a little bit of time. It's not a minute.
It is.
Did you feel like you were like missing something or you had heard something wrong, or did you go through that season of like you said fear, but anxiety, like insecurity, like this is not for me, this isn't not actually what I'm supposed to be doing, I should just stay where I am, I've got my master's degree, I've done all this work or whatever? Did you get to that place or that season?
Yeah, so I've always had this feeling deep within me like I'm made for more, and I was feeling like I have this dream in my heart. I know that this is something I'm called to do. I'm called to coach women and leaders. I'm called to speak. I'm called to help people with their God-given dreams and, help them fulfill what's in their heart, what God's placed in their heart to do. So as I'm doing this social work thing, though, and progressing and sort of moving up the proverbial, career ladder, though, these doors are opening up in that way, too. And there were times where I thought, okay, well, these doors are opening up here. So, did I hear God wrong? Is this dream, maybe not right? Is this something I want? So I would pray for clarity in that. But I can see every year I sort of do an inventory of the year and where things are at and how far God's brought me and what I'm looking forward to in the new year. And I can say that in those 5 years, every skill, every experience, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, 5 years later, starting a business, if I hadn't been through what I've been through in the past 5 years. So I think that all of the leadership, all of the things I've learned, running the business of SafeCenter has helped me to have the courage, the faith, the resiliency going through, the pandemic, especially to be able to say, like, I can start this small business. I can start it slow. I can take those small steps of faith, put myself out there, take some risks and, see what happens. And I wouldn't have been able to do that before necessarily. So it's all led to something. Beth Moore has a quote. She says, "Nothing is for nothing in the economy of God." I've referred to that several times since I've heard it, and that was years ago. But I just think that is so true that, God uses everything, even when we're waiting on something. In the waiting, stuff is happening.
It's so funny. It's funny you say that because we started ultrasounds at the pregnancy center in November, right? And like I was saying, 12 years of a vapor dream that I don't even think if I really, when it was happening in the moment and then the day of and the day after, I remember coming home and like in my devotion time and I was just sitting and I was like, I don't even know that I knew that was a dream that was in my heart, right? Until it actually was, I was standing there listening to heartbeats outside the room in our ultrasound suite. And I'm standing at the door and the door's closed and the client's in with the ultrasound, tech, and they're doing the ultrasound and they have it up so you can hear it. And I'm standing at the door and I just hear this and this heartbeat of this baby. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And so anyway, I think sometimes it's like that. But the point is, every single time before, because we've had like 4 ultrasounds, we do them twice a month now. Every single day before the ultrasound session, something like building wise just breaks. Like we have no power. We have no power again. We have no heat. We have no whatever. We can't get this. We can't get in the building. Like the physical locks won't open. We can't get in. And so it's just like, come on.
Yeah.
And for the first time, we were like, man, this is crazy. And then our director, she's like, yep. There you go. And so she'll just send a text message now out to the entire board team. She's like, definitely going to need some prayer about this one. We're going into ultrasounds tomorrow. Could, really use some covering. So
yeah, for sure.
You're right. Who knows?
Yep.
It's hard. So where do you see your coaching business going this year? And like, what are your goals for 2023 and kind of what's on your heart this year?
Yeah. So for coaching, I'm really looking right now to just build the business in terms of getting off the ground with clients. So, like I said, I've gotten a few clients started, primarily with women. So, I'm doing leadership coaching and personal development coaching. So, those that I've had sign on right now fall more in the personal development category. But, I would love to also do some group coaching if that opportunity presents itself, and then some speaking engagements too, which I do a ton of speaking engagements in my, full-time role. But if folks would like to, have me speak at their church or at any events or retreats or anything like that, I'm available for those options. But really just trying to get out there and kind of spread my wings with it, see what opportunities are out there for me, and what the capacity is for this, and kind of scale it from there, I guess.
Yeah.
I think when you get started with anything, you just have to dip your feet in, or dive in, maybe is the better word, and see where it goes, especially when you're working another job, and then keep those boundaries intact too, and learn a healthy rhythm with this. So that's really important to me too, because I've been on a journey of, self-care and boundaries, and taking care of myself, and just ensuring that I'm a well person so that I can, take care of others well too. So,
yeah, I think that's so good. I think that's kind of the season I'm into. Like, I'm trying to lay down this striving checklist mindset thing that I somehow picked up along the way. Not that ambition is bad, and not that we shouldn't be, all the things. There's nothing wrong with that, or evil, or, all the kind of cliche things we say.
Right.
But there is a perspective where you kind of have to shift your mindset and be like, no, running 80 hours a week, like just burning both ends, having no margin, having no rest, like that's not healthy.
Correct.
In any scenario ever. And then when you get to that certain place in your life where you're like, wait, what is the point? Why are we doing all these things? We had a mom come in the other day, and she was talking about going back to school and stuff. And, we were talking about food, clothing, shelter, because, you got to have those first. And you could just see this weight of not guilt, maybe, but she was like, yeah, I mean, I want to, but, we were homeless and this and that. And I looked at her and I said, okay, the food, clothing, shelter, right? We got to start with that first. And, oh, by the way, you're creating a tiny human. That's a big deal.
Yeah. That's
Keep creating a tiny human, because that's a huge deal. So yes, it's great if you want to, go off to school and do the things, but don't carry the guilt of that around. You know what I mean? Because right now in this season, you're creating a tiny human and you need to rest. So take a nap.
Yep.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah. Our hustle and striving culture just wants to have us keep pushing and grinding and going. And that's just not the way that we're supposed to go. And I've learned that more and more. I resonate with you. And I know we've talked about this, that, I'm a recovering perfectionist, striver, performer, and I've had to relearn. I've had to retrain my brain and say, no, it's okay to rest. It's okay to let my mind just separate from the work, the tasks, the to-do list, and be. It's okay to just be still and just rest. So we need that.
Yeah. I love that when I just love your reflection, like that journey that you're on, because I kind of watch, post things on Facebook, and I know that you're a huge avid reader, which I love. And just, I'm always picking up books that you've hey, this book is great. This is whatever. Kristen Hannah, or whoever that, the one where she was the Four Winds and the author.
Oh, yes.
Just love it. So I'm always gleaning from you, these little tidbits as you're going through your journey. And I appreciate that you're transparent about that. That's the thing that I think, you're very transparent in, your life and just who you are as a person. And then I really love the fact that you're trying to bring all that into this coaching business, because, you're like, hey, I'm not perfect. I've, made different decisions, but I've learned these things. And so let me help you, because I really do have a passion for helping people. Yeah. And we were just talking about that last night, actually, at the center, because we were talking about that, moms are coming in, and that's what I try to tell them too. I'm like, look, people genuinely do care about you. I know the world may tell you they don't, social media may tell you you don't, but that's not the real story. People genuinely do care. They want you to be safe and to do all those things, like you were talking about, your passion for justice and your passion for these things. I feel like sometimes we lose faith in humanity, but no, we do genuinely care.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I'm super proud of you and your team. I mean, I know you have a ton of people that do all the things every day. So you definitely, don't take credit for all their hard work. I know they all work really hard, but just super proud of everything that you guys are doing, and just, hats off to you to stay in the trenches every day. So the final question I have for you is just, how do you, Miss Hannah, keep showing up even when it's hard? Like, what is that for you that keeps you going every day?
Well, I think for me, it's just staying connected to God is a big thing. And again, that might sound really cliche, but I'm one of those people, and I just shared about this on social media too, but I look forward to getting up every morning and being reminded of who God is and what He's created me to do, and who He's, created me to be, but also who He is. I find my strength in Him. And I'm reminded that, when I'm weak, He's strong in me. And I've been so weak so many times, and I fail so many times. And it is hard.
Oh,
I could tell you many stories, especially, in the last few years about hurdles I've had to overcome, especially through COVID, just a lot of different, things that have happened in my journey. And God
yeah.
always just proves Himself faithful. And so I just give Him all the glory, because without Him as my rock and the firm foundation in my life, I just wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be where I am. And He does make me brave. He makes me strong and helps me keep going every day.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. And He's given me the people, and He's given me the places, and just the opportunities. And it's just been such a huge, huge gift. It's a huge blessing. And just being able to find gratitude along the way, and reflect and praise Him for those things just keeps me going when it's tough. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. No, it just, as you were speaking, I was like, I can't see me. I'm saying, closing my eyes, and I'm just like, it's like this position of worship, right? That we talk about in, but we don't really, that nebulous, like cloud vapor thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just coming in every morning and starting with a humble heart and saying, Lord, I just, thank you for all these things. And I think, do you find that your process of reflection helps you do that? Like when you said you look back at the year, you write things down, your vision board, like you're very, in that respect, I see you're taking notes, you're writing things down, but do you find that that practice of reflection helps you have that posture of worship and that posture of gratitude?
Absolutely. And I think it's even just a daily practice too, because in coming to God every morning
Yeah.
and looking back at just the past day, being able to say, this was a high, this was a low. And, I can praise you for this,
Yeah.
but help me. It's not so much do better, but like help me learn from that, help me grow from that. Where I
Yeah.
screwed up here, like make it right, even though I may have said the wrong thing. Use it for your good anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it is. I mean, it's a whole process of reflection and just continuing to grow through all the things.
Yeah, I think that's so good. Yeah. And then tell me when I need to say I'm sorry, because there are many times when I need to say I'm sorry, and help
Oh,
me do that.
yes.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
that's me.
Yes.
I've done that. I've gone to work the next day and stopped at someone's desk and said, I'm sorry, I growled at you yesterday. And they're like, no, it wasn't growling. I'm like, no, it legit was. I'm so sorry. It was not the right thing to do.
Yes.
But you walk hat in hand and you're like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, never be afraid to apologize. Always be more than willing to apologize. I find I apologize
Yeah.
maybe too much, but no, I don't think you can ever apologize too much when, like it's a great leadership habit to have. So, yes.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
true. Well, where can people find you, Miss Hannah, online, and how can they work with you?
Yes. So I am online. I have my personal Instagram, which is my very long name, but it's Hannah_Lee_Gottschalk. And then for my coaching business, it's just at Fierce and Free Coaching. My website is just fierceandfreecoaching.com. And then if anyone wants to learn more about the Safe Center, they can find us on Facebook. That's just the Safe Center. And then we also have our website, which is www.thesafecenter.org.
All right. That's awesome. And we'll put all the links in the show notes so anybody, can come through and find you, like you said, on your websites, either personally, your coaching, or the Safe Center for sure.
Perfect.
It has been a blessing by all means. So I thank you for coming today. I love that you are doing this coaching business. So I'm super excited for you. I'm kind of cheering in the background. Yay, yay, yay. So I'm excited to see what this year brings. And I would love for you to come back maybe in the summer or something, or later on in the fall. We can talk more about how it's going and all the things that you're learning about leadership and all the things. So hats off to you. May God bless you and your amazing journey, friend, and just stay strong and keep striving and all the things. So thanks for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blessing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening to the Entrusted to Lead podcast. This podcast was brought to you by our amazing producers at Wildfire Creative Company. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please hop over to iTunes or Spotify, subscribe, rate it, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. And make sure you come back. We'll talk more about the essence and elements of leadership on the first and third Thursday of every month. If you enjoyed today's show, you can head over to danitacummins.com/podcast and gain access to additional free resources. But make sure you subscribe to our newsletter so you can stay up to date on the latest shows. Have an amazing day. Talk to you soon.